slides that I made. And then so the first part of this week one is a lot of exposition, just some information that I'm going to put out there. I'll show you some of the forms and strategies that people use to taste wines in an analytical manner. And then we'll get into the wines and we'll talk about it a little bit. And then weeks 2 and 3 will be more about tasting the wine. So really this was, this first week was designed for just as a kind of an introductory type of thing. And then we'll get more into the actual taste comparing and stuff after we get into that. So I'm going to bombard you with a little bit of information first, and then we'll get into the tasting. And I'll tell you right now, all 12 wines that we have are like really awesome. They're all 90 points plus. No, it's fine. Like this is just introductory stuff. So I'm going to share my screen and show you some PowerPoint slides. I think did it get we out to you, Michael? Did you receive that email with the
which one?
The PowerPoint slides and stuff? If not, I'll email that out to you personally. Yeah, that's it. That's it. Okay. So with our match, we only have we have 4 wines to taste today, 2 whites and 2 reds. But let's just kick it off. Once everybody's ready, just let me know. And then I'm going to share my screen for a few minutes. We'll talk about some of the technical stuff, and then we'll start tasting.
Cool.
You guys have any food in front of you?
We have some snacks. Should we get them?
Good. So for next week, I'm going to email out to everybody some suggested pairings and things like that. For this one, again, the wines are all so different. It's very hard to have everyone have the same stuff in front of them. But anyway, we'll roll through this. I'm going to share my screen real fast. Michael, you ready?
I'm ready.
Okay, beautiful. So let's do this. So I think you all have this in front of you. And I'll just talk a little bit about what we're looking at. Deductive tasting. So when you look at, have you guys seen maybe on Netflix or in the movies like the series Somm or anything like that, where these people, invest like years of their lives to take these crazy tasting exams? So that is the tasting method is based on a governing body called the Court of Master Sommeliers. So that's kind of the big one in the U.S. I have the level 1 certification from them. There's another one called the Wine and Spirits Educational Trust that's based out of London. I have a level 3 from them. So these different governing bodies have different styles and different goals as how they train their students. The Court of Master Sommeliers, they are really interested in identifying wines. So, these folks that spend a lot of time tasting wines, they make a career out of it. They can drill down not just what type of grape the wine is made from, what part of the world, what country, what village, sometimes even what neighborhood in the village, down to the year, all that stuff. It's kind of crazy how accurate that these folks can be, and the way they do it is a systematic way of evaluating wine. So here, this first slide is a very general description of what people use. So of course, you might not think of sight as the first one. So the color even of a wine, a wine in a glass, can tell you something about it. And then of course the smell, where everybody, when you see kind of the swirling of a wine glass to get the aromas in your nose, and then the taste. Of course, these are all like make a lot of sense. But the way deductive tasting works is then you form these kind of larger. You take these big components and you form large conclusions, and then you start to drill down. So again, a lot of this won't pertain to what we're going to talk about tonight. So I'm going to blow through a lot of this stuff. Site evaluation, very quickly, if you look at this slide. Just from, again, looking at it, and I have just a white piece of paper here, you can see on your tasting mats, you should have a nice field of white right in the middle. And the way to evaluate site is you take your glass and you kind of lean it down. Here, I will unshare my screen for a moment just to show you. So if your mat is on the table, you have a nice overhead light there. Take your glass, you lean it forward, and you look through sort of the meat of the wine and just look at color. And it's very helpful to have, we have four wines here, 2 whites and 2 reds. If you look at your Chardonnay first, and your Sauvignon Blanc second, or even by next to each other, big color differences. So if you look at, and we'll get into this a little bit more in a minute, but you can see the Chardonnay has more of a golden hue, and the Sauvignon Blanc, much more transparent, a whitish hue. So even just right off the bat, not even smelling it, nothing else, visually there's cues that can kind of give you a clue as to what that wine might be. So I'm going to share my screen again real fast. For reds as well, you can see the lighter, there's varietals that tend to have less pigment and then go into more pigment. Concentration of color, a lot of these sort of tertiary, secondary, tertiary things, tearing, gas bubbles, rim variation, things like that. We'll talk about rim variation in a moment, but a little too much to get into at this point. This is something, so all these documents and resources that I'm showing you right now are actually official Court of Master Sommelier documents. So I shouldn't be sharing them at all, but in any case, this is what people use, professionals, industry professionals use to get to attain their certifications. So sight, keep nose, clean or faulty, that is kind of always the start of the sight, smell, and taste portions is if it's bad, you know, if it's corked or if it hasn't been stored properly, it smells moldy or whatever it is, we can ignore that part. But in the nose, and I'll get into this again a little bit more in detail in a second, just what you can pick up. And, you know, it's important to keep an open mind. A lot of the descriptors that wine professionals use, you try to pull from things that most people will already know. If it's like something like freshly baked apple pie, I know that sounds crazy if you're smelling a glass of wine and that's what you smell. Or, you know, pencil lead. That's one that I always get, pardon my French, I get a lot of shit about if I say, oh my God, I got pencil lead in this. But like, you know, wet rocks, crazy things like that. These are all natural aromas that we use those terms because we, you know, these governing bodies use the terms because it's a way to pull out these memories, these identifying, you know, a ways to identify these smells and flavors that you might not normally associate with a glass of wine, but in everyday life, we can relate to these things and say, oh my gosh, yeah, that does remind me of like a winter day and, you know, apples baking in an oven or whatever it is. So that's nose. And then again, a lot of technical stuff. What I just mentioned, as far as you can see so many descriptors. I can say that when wine types, especially when they are studying under a certain school or governing body, the descriptors that people use are kind of a standardized vocabulary. So I always like to refer to it as a language that people use in order for everybody to be on the same page. So if you're talking about something like floral, vegetal, herbal, these are things that, you know, in the beginning when you first start tasting wines in an analytical manner, you'd be like, yeah, I know what that is. I can't think of the word. So having these words in your vocabulary really helps to be able to describe what it is that you're detecting, and then for others to commiserate or compare and things like that. So you can see this is just a small sampling of verbiage that is used for the Court of Master Sommeliers. Keep going. Old world or new world. So when we're talking about deductive, that's going from big things to small things. Just a quick aside, when you think about, I don't know if anybody's read actually any Arthur Conan Doyle, Sherlock Holmes. Sherlock Holmes is famous for being a deductive reasoning detective. That's really not true. So Sherlock Holmes, the way he solved crimes was actually inductive. He would go from very small things. So I have my wedding ring. There's a famous story, I can't remember what the name of the story is, but he saw this man's hand on a table and saw that there was, you know, a wedding ring, it was light. So two things that he determined. He was once married or is married and didn't want to be known that he was married, and that he spent a lot of time in the sun because it was, his hand had color on it, but the ring area did not. And then he determined these larger things, or he kind of presumed these larger things from that small detail. Wine tasting in this method is the opposite. It's bigger to large. So the first thing you would detect is old world versus new world. quick synopsis, old world, not so much fruit, new world, a lot of fruit. Old world growing areas, generally speaking, not as productive growing areas, so not as warm weather, shorter growing seasons. New world, Americas, South Africa, Oceania, which means Australia, New Zealand, warmer weather, long growing seasons, a lot of fruit characteristics. So that doesn't apply to us today because all of our wines today are New World, but that is the very first thing that students of the Court of Master Sommelier method would try to determine. So let's keep going. Again, I'm sorry, I'm just barking information at you, but we'll get into tasting very, very soon. So again, cool climate versus warm climate. Keep going. Again, this is sort of a very systematic way, as you can see, of how to identify a wine. Varietal, even if it's a blend, what the blend is, where it is from in the world, whether it's from the old world, Western Hemisphere versus Eastern Hemisphere, Northern versus Southern Hemisphere, country, region, village, vintage, all those things. And when you get very good at this, it is actually possible to determine that without knowing anything from the beginning, which is kind of amazing to me still. So just these slides, which you have at your disposal. We're not going to really get into this right now, but as I said, dominance of non-fruit versus dominance of fruit. Let's keep going. This is just a quick synopsis of varietals and where they're grown, primarily in parts of the world and countries. Kind of blow through this. Reds. A real quick discussion about oak. So American oak versus French oak. You might see this sometimes even in whiskey aging, but American oak tends to be a looser grain versus French oak is a very tight grain. What that means is when you're aging wine in these oak barrels, when you have a tight grain, less of the oak characteristic will be imparted into the wine as opposed to American oak, where in that same period of time, if you're aging, for instance, 6 months, American oak will impart much more oak characteristic than French oak would, for instance. So it's sort of known that American wines, if they're oak aged, have a lot of oak. So American wines, the big knock on American like Chardonnays and Cabernets, and we'll actually experience that in a moment, is that they tend to be exaggerated in these characteristics that were once completely absent in American wine. So, in the 70s, late 70s, going to the 80s, American wines started to get a foothold and have some validity on the international scene. And a lot of the knocks on them were that, they did, there's no oak, there's no butter. So American winemakers like, well, here's a buttload of butter and like a buttload of oak, and here you go. And that kind of became this exaggerated style. And just, if you could take a note real fast, French oak versus American oak, both of those have vanilla in them. We'll talk about that in a moment. Palate, these are, if you can see in number 2, we talked about number 1, fruit versus non-fruit. In 2, there are all these different sort of characteristics that you would want to evaluate. One is dryness. We don't have any sweet wines tonight. We have wines that express a lot of fruit. And then bitterness, tannin, and acidity. Just those 3 things I would like to talk about very, very quickly are actually separate things. So bitterness, tannin, acidity. Once we start tasting, especially when we go into the reds, we'll talk about that a little bit. Often they are kind of lumped together as one thing. They are separate things. And then alcohol, body, texture, we'll just keep going real fast. This is if you can see, sorry, that didn't translate well into a slide. But this is like a worksheet when you're working through wines to kind of mark off and help you note various characteristics. And then at the Court of Master Sommelier examination level, what happens is you get together as a group of 4 people and you come up with a final conclusion. So the last time I went to one of these exams, it was, I think, 170 people in this huge room, broken up into groups of 4. And all of us, I guess it ended up being like, 45 groups, had to blind taste 6 wines and guess, essentially, what those wines were. And how well you did that determined whether or not you would pass the exam. So let's go on to our very first wine. So, and apologies, I know that was just a wall of words, but has anyone had the Raybird? We had this I hate to talk about BCC, but we had this by the glass at BCC for at least a year and a half or so. Rayburn Chardonnay, 2018.
I don't drink Chardonnays.
I drink Chardonnay. I don't know what was the house Chardonnay? Do you remember? I just usually would get that.
The house, oh my gosh. Actually, we changed it up a little bit. I can't remember what, it was like 12 hands or something random like that.
Okay. I just pretty much always drank the house, but.
Yeah. But so the Rayburn is a very classic California Chardonnay. So let's start by, actually.
You're awesome.
I have some notes here.
Should we pour the Rayburn?
Yes, please. Actually, we should, I'm sorry, you should have poured all four. But yes,
Okay.
pour it now. And then we'll just have some video.
How much do I put in each glass?
Oh God, not just a sip's worth.
You're doing a tasting, Michael. You're not
Yeah.
drinking 4 glasses of wine.
That's good.
Not yet.
What do you want to drink, honey?
But I will say, one thing about like, especially I can see the wine glasses you have are those very nice like cut crystal,
Right.
etched crystal. If you put just a little bit in and it'll help you swirl so it doesn't like fall out of the glass.
I'll do that next time.
Yeah.
We just needed a starter mouthful.
You got one.
So before we even start any kind of swirling or anything, what I like to do with all wines, once it's poured, before even like it's just habit even for me, as soon as I pick up a glass of wine, piece of stemware, I'll swirl it around. But the first thing I like to do, especially with a wine like this, is just smell it first. Like don't even just wave it around under your nose. Don't even agitate the wine at all. Like keep your nose far away, get it a little bit closer, not all the way in, but just kind of like surface wafting that way. When certain wines have very powerful aromas, if you keep your nose a little further away, you might get a little bit more of the subtle ones before you're overwhelmed with those very powerful ones. So like
Smells like
just over the top, any initial reactions from the very first.
Smells like Chardonnay.
Smells sweet to me.
Which means what? What does Chardonnay smell like as opposed to another white wine?
Something I don't like.
Wait a minute. I think I know what you're talking about though.
This doesn't even smell like a Chardonnay to me.
Wait,
No?
you feel a little citrusy, a little
Okay.
sweet, citrusy.
Yeah,
Sweet, yes, I agree.
it's definitely
All
sweet.
Chardonnays feel sweet or taste sweet to me. They
Okay.
all do. Except for,
White Burgundy.
there's one. The white Burgundy is not a.
Yeah, it's a Chardonnay.
Burgundy is Chardonnay. Oh my God. So next week, we're gonna taste some Chardonnay that he might
It's got
like.
a refrigerator full of white Burgundy.
Oh, I'm a Burg hound. I love Burgundy. But yeah, Burgundy Chardonnay.
So white Burgundy, I like. Chardonnay, like this, is not on my top of my list.
Interesting.
And I'll tell you, so again, so can anybody, other than maybe not something that's fruit-based, do you smell anything?
I'd like to, but I can't smell anything.
Just talked about it a little bit.
Much. I usually can smell.
It smells very strong to me.
It doesn't smell strong.
I can't distinguish what the smells are.
I smell something hits me right off the bat, and it's oak. It is like, it smells like,
Well, I wanted to say oak, but
that's
I'm not
it.
sure that was
I smell.
No, listen, don't be afraid to
what I don't like.
just say what you smell. That's it.
smell
I knew it.
miracle.
I knew when you said it smells like Chardonnay, that's what you're referring
That's what I
to.
mean,
Yeah.
man.
Oak. It's big time oak.
Just a
So
different-
like, I really like Rayburn, but what a lot of Chardonnay makers, especially in the US, what they'll do is instead of investing the time to rest their wine in oak barrels, they'll actually take oak powder and dose their wine just to give it that oak. I don't think Rayburn does this, but really cheap wine. So if you got like a yellowtail Chardonnay,
So this
If it's
smells
really, really oaky, they doctor it.
big time, right?
That is
Shocking.
So what do they take? Like, what do they take before they doctor it?
What's that?
Is it just that they just haven't aged it enough, and so then it's
Yeah. So
good
instead
wine,
of
but
taking the
they
time
just,
to let the wine sit in
like
barrel,
softened cold?
they'll
So
take charred oak powder, mix it into the wine, and then sift it out. It's illegal in the US, but other parts of the world it is not illegal.
Interesting.
Yeah. So anyway, so that's
Chardonnays, how they smell often. I want to say they're like heavy, syrupy to me. Like they're not clean and crisp. They're like, bleh.
yes. So so you like the clean and crisp, which is one Burgundy style, like a Chablis, a classic, just pure laser focused, acid orchard fruit Chardonnay, and
So
that's what Chardonnay really is. This is Chardonnay after a couple of things that have been done to it. One is oak, which is the first thing we smell. So actually, let's get into that. So now that we've done it without agitating the wine, give it a little swirl. Really get in there.
Oops.
You'll be able to smell some other stuff.
We take a drink.
Man. Wow.
We're still
So
smelling.
it smells a little like peach pie
Peach, perfect. Yes, absolutely. What else?
Peach pie.
and vanilla ice cream.
Vanilla, yes, perfect. So that's what we're talking about. Along with the oak characteristic, almost always vanilla is associated with that. It's the same compounds that are found in wood pulp. But yeah, big time like desserty vanilla. And that's what you were saying about smelling sweet. Not necessarily just pure sugar, it smells like dessert, and it does.
Is this supposed to smell like American oak or French oak?
Well, this smells like American oak to me, man. Like this is just so.
Are most American whites made with American oak?
Yes, vast majority. So there might be some winemakers, high-end winemakers that'll use French oak. It's just hard to come by these barrels. But I think for this particular wine, this is big time. Just
And Henry, that's why the smell is a little stronger too.
what's that?
The oak smell is a little stronger here than maybe in some other things.
Big time. 100.
So the white Burgundies in France use French oak and it's not as oaky?
Correct. It's much more subtle. And we will, again, I can't wait till next week now that we talked about this. It's a great link to that. You will see, we're going to have, it's the same winemaker. Chardonnay is from Oregon and from their vineyard in Burgundy. And you'll be able to tell the difference. Like I love Chablis, which is no oak, no butter, nothing. But I also love, there's a type of Burgundy called Meursault, which has just enough oak, just enough butter. And when you have a good one, it's like a revelation. It's like, wow, this is what California Chardonnay makers are trying to emulate, but just screw it up because they're just exaggerating.
How do you spell Meursault?
We have some.
Meursault. Man, I'm telling you, it's game changer. In any case, so what else are we smelling in here?
I smell cherry.
Okay, like that. So stone fruit, we're staying in the stone fruit category. I like that. I agree with you. What else? Anything, again, non-fruit, and we've already talked about oak, maybe not oak.
I just keep smelling the oak.
Yeah.
It's like
Lead pencil?
I'm getting caramel. I just, like you were talking about dessert, something about like sort of a sweet, cooked down sweet sugar. So, and then let's taste.
I've been tasting.
Fair enough. Oh, so I definitely have something, a fruit that we did not smell for me. Anybody?
Hold on.
Oh, good nose, huh?
I feel like it helps out the wine in general. It kind of balances a little bit.
Is there like it's not grapefruity.
Oh, you're right there though.
Orange.
I said lemon. I'm thinking lemon. Yes,
Yeah.
it's citrusy.
It's
100%.
Yeah.
Yes. It's got that little acidity on the back, right?
Yeah, it does.
Yeah. Yeah, 100%. I love that. I agree with you 100%.
This is a very light Chardonnay. It's not. I'm used to heavier Chardonnays.
So listen, for a California style Chardonnay, Russian River, Rayburn is one of my everyday go-tos. But again, so we're going from Chardonnay, what we consider California Chardonnay, and then when we taste the Sauvignon Blanc, you will see how vast
Okay.
the range is from white varietals, from a Chardonnay to a Sauvignon. So excellent, very good job. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to share my screen again, and then we're going to look at what the winemaker and critics said. So we can say, and by the way, all these wines are 90 point plus, rated by even Wine Advocate, which is Robert Parker, who is a local guy. But so 90 points, wine enthusiast, creamy voluptuous, peach, stone fruits, vanilla. This is from Wine Enthusiast. And then the winemaker themselves, pear, apple nectar. We didn't get a whole lot of orchard fruits.
And I smell a little pear.
Creme brulee, which I love that. Like the first thing, I think one of the first descriptors that you said, Ms. Johnson, was sweet. And I agree. So creme brulee, which is not just vanilla, not just kind of desserty, but kind of that caramelized characteristic, which I thought was really cool. So let's go on to, and then we can go to wine number 2.
All right, already looking at it.
Yeah.
It's
Lighter in color.
in the
Way
glass.
paler, much more transparent, right?
Oh my God, this is really citrusy.
Oh, you tasted it already. Hold on.
I didn't
Hold on.
taste it, That's just smelling it.
Oh, just smelling it. Okay, yes.
It
Smells
smells like grapefruit.
Like green apples.
Yes. Okay, so
Lime
you
sherbet.
guys are like, wait a minute. This is okay. This is
This is
such like a
so
beginner's class. But anyway, so wine number 2, Sauvignon Blanc.
It is really.
And
First
I knew it
thought.
was a
What did you say?
Sauvignon. I haven't looked at it, but I'm like, that's a Sauvignon Blanc.
Yeah, big time.
It
It
looks like
smells like the red, hey, it smells like this pepper.
Which one? It smells like what?
A pepper, like a sweet pepper.
Like a bell pepper?
Smelling the
I don't
sweet.
Yeah.
smell like that.
Yes, I agree with you. It
I
does.
got it because I have a piece of bell pepper in my hand. I'm smelling that. I'm smelling this.
All right, are we smelling it now?
Green
without-
bell pepper. That is one identifying characteristic of a New Zealand Sauvignon Blanc. So yes, we're smelling now first again.
What about apples?
Hold on, let's smell first. So again, like I like to just something like this would just is so powerful with the citrus, as you said, Ms. Johnson. It's just like
That is all I smell is the
yeah.
grapefruit.
But so maybe like further away, without agitating.
Oh, I
Do you get anything else? When those citrus aromas are tamped down a little bit, I get something. I get
Lime?
something that's related, just far away, and like something. Another little trick that I like to do, I like blow into the glass like this, like to blow it out, and you might get some stuff. Just various ways to get various aromas, I think. To me, I smell lime, grapefruit, I smell citrus, but it smells like flowers to me, a little bit more subtle, like a perfumey. You get that? Don't kind of further away, you think? Maybe blow in? Do you get
I don't have much in this glass, so.
Yeah, that's it.
Y'all get that at all? Kind of like just a little perfumey, kind of.
I don't have the flowers.
I can see the perfumey.
Okay. So then we can swirl and it's just going to be a big citrus bomb. Yeah. As you said, grapefruit, big time.
Yes, lots
Anything
of.
else? So, Michael, as you said bell pepper. I know what you mean. It's something vegetal, like green, and I get like a kind of a grassy aroma.
Yeah.
Just green and fresh, like freshly cut.
Yeah.
And let's taste.
Like wheat,
That's-
like almost a little wheat grass.
Mm-hmm.
That's why I feel like the Sauvignon Blancs are more crisp, like fresher than the Chardonnays. And I
Absolutely. And that's why, for me, my
Nice.
summer porch pounder of choice is Sauvignon Blanc. You know, it goes well with grilled foods and, you know, and hors d'oeuvres and things like that. Whereas a Chardonnay, especially like the one we just tasted,
This is a Kim Crawford.
this is a Kim Crawford, but this is a 2019, and this is actually one of the better vintages that I've had. Like,
I will say so because Kim Crawford in the beginning,
yeah,
it was a lot and it was very sweet. This is really nice.
I'm glad you said that because like actually 2017, 2018 vintages, like they were knocked pretty bad because they were, again, like over exaggerating like a California Chardonnay would. They just were a lot of fruit, a lot of citrus, But this one I feel like is a lot more balanced. It's actually like, this week, it's the first time I tasted this current vintage, which is 2019. I think it's really great.
I was very surprised to see that it was Kim Crawford. It's really good. Yeah, I like it.
Where's this made?
New Zealand, Marlborough. So it's arguably the ideal growing conditions for the Sauvignon Blanc grape on the planet. But so New Zealand style Chardonnay, New Zealand style Sauvignon Blanc is characterized by citrus. So before we move forward, do you get anything other than fruit? Any other characteristics? Because I get one big time.
Anything over, I mean, it just tastes like fruit juice to me, practically. So,
Do you smell anything outside of fruit when you get in there?
what else do you smell besides the fruit? Like,
I mean, we talk about the green, right?
Yes.
So, wheatgrass,
Oh,
herbs.
some people describe it as kind of a dusty smell. Does anybody get that?
No.
So I'm getting, I get like a wet rock type of smell. So do you know? I'm serious. Hold on a second. Do you know have you ever walked on a hot summer day and you're walking on the sidewalk and it starts to rain and the rain, it's so hot, the rain just like that smell? Do you know what I'm talking about? Or like,
Yeah.
do you get that in this wine?
I don't get it.
You don't get it in the wine?
No.
I get it in this wine.
I think once I get one thing that's overwhelming to me, that's it.
That's it.
I don't
Yeah,
I don't get it.
Henry, when you do this, after a time, is it one of those kind of things like you tell me that it smells like wet rock, and I come in here and I go, I honestly can't smell it that way. But after a period of time of doing it for a while, you sort of start to get
You
almost
convince
like
us that
learn
that's
what
what
the
we're
smells
smelling.
are or something.
100%. Yeah, there's no question that it's it's kind of a, it's a matter of a confirmation bias and like now it's in your head. So now that's what you're thinking. But I will say just from, many, many iterations of experimental trial and error, I really feel like some of these, and I only try to cherry pick the ones that I feel that really exist, in
I
a
can
glass
smell
of wine.
that smell you're talking about now.
Yeah,
But I'm gonna pick that out.
try to pull it out. You know what I mean? Like I know exactly what you're saying. It's like, hey,
I have to
if you
think
go
of
to a
that smell
restaurant,
first.
sommelier comes by
Fresh
and like,
grain.
here's this $300 bottle of wine. It smells like violets and like rose petals and like, oh my God, it really does. And I get that. That is a very powerful effect. But some of these very, in my opinion, fundamental, components, flavor and aroma components, I think they're really there. And like, if you look at the chemical breakdown of wines, they are there, whether or not you can detect them on a certain day or not, that's a whole different story. But, that's part of the fun.
Yeah, I'd like to
Nobody
go out
got the wet rocks but me.
and wet rocks and smell that versus this.
It's wet out there. Knock yourself out.
I was thinking, when it first rains in the summer, it's light, you smell that first smell on the streets.
I mean, yeah.
That's what I was thinking. I was trying to envision when you said wet rocks.
I mean, that's a beautiful visualization.
But you get that smell in June when it rains and it's like a little light shower and you smell it, you come outside and
Yes.
stop, smell it. It's in the air.
So do you know what that smell is?
No.
I know what it
You
is.
look it up.
Mold?
When it hits the dirt, okay?
Oh,
When rain hits dry dirt, it drives up particles, very fine particles of dirt. In that dirt lives a bacteria. It's called
Right.
geosmin. I'm not kidding you. It's called geosmin, and that smell, that earth mineral smell, is produced by a bacteria. And
Right.
you get that from that first summer rain because it's a dry soil, dry, loose, fine particulate soil that when the rain hits and it comes up, that's what you smell. Like that's a real thing. I'm telling you.
I didn't know that.
Because I'm a freaking nerd, man.
That's all right.
All right, wine number 3. Now we can do the same thing when we looked at the Chardonnay. And, well, my webcam is not doing this justice, but if you can compare
We have 2 more.
the Pinot Noir and the Cab, you'll see a very big difference in, the first difference you'll see is opacity. So when I'll do it this way. You're supposed to look at about 45 degrees going down, and then you look straight down through the thickest part of the wine. Right? No, not to the light, because the light is so variable. You look down at a white piece surface down. And one of the things that, when you get into the more advanced levels, is so if you look through your wine number 3 at the tasting mat, can you read the words through the?
Yes.
Okay.
Okay.
Can you
Right?
do that with wine number 4?
Can't
No.
see it
Right.
before.
And that's a big indicator is opacity. So we're going to go through wine number 3. So the visual is one thing. You can see right through it. That's a very good indicator. It narrows it down to probably 2 or 3 major varietals, one of which is Pinot Noir, which this one is. So any initial thoughts on the smell?
It's
I don't
strong.
like it.
No, it's
Why? No, hold on. Ms. Johnson, why?
It smells like a basement.
It doesn't smell good.
See, I like the
In what way? Does it remind you of anything?
But it smells moldy.
I think it smells moldy.
It is musty. I agree with that.
Dirty.
Yes, earthy, dirty.
Okay.
I like that. No, I love that though. Earthy and dirty. Hold on a second. This is what I wrote down. The first 2 things that I wrote down. Here, I'll share my screen with you and I'll show you. That's so funny. You should say that.
And I smell
I'm a natural.
some cherry.
You see that? For the
No.
lyric, dirt, earth.
Yeah.
Leather.
Ah, so I wanted to get to leather independently.
Smells.
What else?
Cherry?
Yes, cherry, but so red cherry or black cherry?
Red cherry. No,
Black
black cherry.
I agree with
Black
you, red
cherry.
cherry. What else?
Yeah. The
I
currant.
smell that now.
The
Yes.
currant. Yeah.
I only know black cherry. I grew up with a black cherry tree in our backyard.
Really?
Say currants.
Well, just wait till wine number 4.
Okay.
Serious. Yeah. What else? There's one big
Without
component that I get. We might get it after we swirl. So let's swirl now.
I smell a pencil eraser. A little bit.
Pencil eraser is really a thing, though. Michael, it is. I'm telling you. Pencil eraser after you erase something.
It's not this wine, but it's a thing.
Not this wine, no.
I smell a little bit.
You're cheating and you're on the wrong.
Oh,
you're on the
wait.
wrong
I'm not
bottle.
cheating. There's
You're on the
nothing in
wrong
front of me.
bottle. You're cheating.
There's nothing in front of me.
I'm teasing. It's a joke. It's a joke.
That is fun right there. It's cheating.
I'm not. This was
No,
on my
it's fine.
phone.
All right, so after the swirl, does anyone get any other aromatic?
I can't put my finger on it, but it's really different after.
It's something though,
swirled.
right? It's not fruit, right?
No.
It's not earth. It's something else.
I know that smell.
Swirling it makes this scent like be less strong
Yes.
for me.
So a lot of times when you first open a bottle of wine, you pour it in, you can blow off, is what it's called, a lot of maybe some of the aromas, the earthy aromas, and you're left with what's really in the fruit.
It's really, it smells acidy to me.
Let me ask you a question.
Yes.
If you had to associate a color with the smell that you can't identify, what would it be?
Oh, that's a hard one.
Blue for me.
Green.
Oh, wait a minute. I got the smell now.
Green. I don't like green.
What's the smell?
Oh, man. I got that smell that after you get rid of all the others.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yep.
There's definitely something there. I just don't know where.
There's a couple of things. We've already said dirt, earth, those are the very first 2 things that I wrote down when I smell this wine. Red fruit, leather, which I thought was very astute.
Yeah, I smell leather.
Yeah.
More so than the eraser, pencil eraser. It's more leathery. Yeah.
But okay, so maybe related or not necessarily related, but like along the same, in this same realm as leather.
Not new car.
Not new car. There are wines that kind of smell like new car. They smell like, what's the descriptor? Beach ball. Like when you
Yeah.
inflate a beach ball.
That like vinyl
Wine
So
smell.
rubbery.
I smelled some wines that smell like a wet dog.
It has an
That
edge.
dog is
Some of the
wet.
Italian wines they put through straw before they bottle it.
Yes.
Tastes like a wet dog.
You're talking about an Amarone Rapasso. I know exactly what you're talking about. There is also a
I have
South African Chenin Blancs.
Basement of that.
Of wet dog.
There
They
are
call it dog.
South African wines that smell, that their characteristic smell is wet wool, like a
Yeah.
wet wool sweater. Yeah.
I can't gauge that smell. It's
Tobacco.
Tobacco.
Tobacco?
Yeah, chewing tobacco.
No wonder I didn't
Are
like
they
it.
chewing tobacco or like a cigar wrapper?
Or it
Like
smells
wet.
wine.
I was
I'm
thinking
not
of
gonna like it.
the tobacco you used to buy in a brick.
Yeah.
What's that? A
It
tobacco
came
what?
Almost raisiny. Tobacco is like, it was like almost raisiny. It came in a
Yes, and that's what I was saying. Like what
Chewing
color? I
tobacco.
smell a brown color. You know, like a
dark
oxide.
brown. And yeah. And
Yeah, tobacco, like cigar wrapper. And now that's kind of all I can taste is like this tobacco.
the color reminds me a little like a Barolo.
I agree. Actually, yeah, because Nebbiolo is a very light, pigmented varietal.
But when I taste it, it tastes spicy.
Sharp.
What spices? What spices?
Oh, now hold on.
Come on. I got 2 spices. I didn't want to bring it up, but I got 2 spices.
Pepper?
What
No?
kind of pepper? What kind of pepper? What color pepper?
Oh, jeez. It's just,
Cayenne.
Like red pepper or black pepper?
Red pepper.
I'm gonna say more
That's
black.
I
I
agree
think
with
a little,
black
I think a
pepper.
little white pepper.
Maybe white pepper too, but yeah, that kind of like, yeah, the hard spice pepper.
It's
What else?
peppery, yeah.
What's
What
the other
else?
spice?
I'm not gonna say no. You say it.
No, I mean, it sort of gets the back of your throat.
Your first instinct is going to be correct, I promise. What is it?
I was gonna say like nutmeg or something.
Cinnamon. I get cinnamon, nutmeg. Yeah, baking
Yeah.
spices. Come on.
I was thinking of the whole cinnamon sticks.
Oh my god.
Yeah, you were. I just tasted it. I just tasted it for
Like instantaneously.
Michael, they already said the
The-
cinnamon.
the
You
unique
can't come up
perception.
and say, yes, I thought of that.
I mean, I taste it. What I'm trying to
Yes,
say.
you can. It's okay.
I taste it.
We're having some-
Sometimes you're tasting something, you're like, what is that? What is
That's
that?
really, I like that wine.
All right, from now on. we're-
Isn't that delicious? So here's a pro tip. If you're thinking spices like warm spices, just say baking spices or hard
Yeah.
spices. And
Okay.
everybody will look at you like, holy shit, this person is an expert. So yeah.
I would definitely agree with baking spices. Yeah.
Nutmeg, mace, cinnamon, allspice, all those things.
What is mace?
Something you would put
Mace.
in.
I
So
thought
have you ever
somebody
Have you ever seen a nutmeg plant? So nutmeg is the seed, is a pit basically, and it's covered by a pulp, just like peach or an almond. It's a juice. So mace is the dried flesh part of the outside of a nutmeg. So they're very related. Mace is like a little bit more citrusy, lighter, kind of high notes in flavor.
So it's the fruit around the nutmeg.
That's been dried. Yeah.
You know what it smells a little like too?
Mm.
What's the spice they put in pho? Is it star anise?
Star anise? Yes, star anise. Hell yeah. I
Do you
like
smell
that.
Yeah.
Yes.
I'm gonna have
Very cool. That is awesome.
Even with tourists.
Okay, we ready for wine number 4?
Yeah.
Okay,
Sure.
let's do it.
So it's
Oh,
definitely
big-
darker.
Hold on. Actually, let's see how we did as far as tasting is concerned. I'm going to go back to our thingy here. Cranberry, gravel, wet slate, rose petals, minerality. Wow. We didn't really hit those too much.
All right.
Cherry, red cherry,
That was
Sweet
this,
spice.
the last one.
cedar,
Rice.
clove, allspice, cinnamon. Dude, excellent work.
I didn't say faux.
Well, I'm afraid it
Do you want a
wasn't, it
little
wasn't
bigger
quite
But I
that.
like that. That's really cool.
I don't
All right.
know.
Wine number 4.
We could say allspice, and certainly Star needs to be part of allspice.
I agree. So again,
This
you
girl's
cannot read any words, any letters in
please.
this wine.
No, this is pretty opaque.
Mhm.
It's very dark.
Oh, it's
So
funny.
much
first-
darker than the last one.
Oh yes,
The last one you said was a Pinot?
correct. So even right off the bat, when you're looking at a glass of wine, and it's kind of more transparent, lighter than dark,
Uh-huh.
you can maybe start with a point, probably not Cabernet, might be Pinot Noir, without having smelled it or tasted it or anything.
I smell the earth in this one.
Okay, so we're smelling. So this is the Alexander Valley Cab.
But I also smell like a currant too.
I like that. Okay, currant and earth. What do you mean by earth? Anything specifically earth? Like
No, like I keep smelling the same thing, and I'm saying earth, but I'm not sure that's the right word.
okay, hold on. So like, give it a blow it out. You might get some like more subtle aromas. Anything else coming out, like jumping out at you?
I can't describe. I can't put a name to it.
It smells
Okay.
like
A bowl of cherry.
mushroomy.
Did somebody say cherry?
Yes.
Yes, big
Cherry.
time
Smells like a
cherry.
bullet.
in this one.
Yeah, we've been talking, yeah.
It smells like
Even
a bowl.
more so than the Pinot Noir, I'd say. Like it's, the first fruit that I get is cherry.
Me too. Okay.
What else?
Got one right.
You said earth. It doesn't necessarily. I mean, it just smells smoky to me.
Yeah.
What else?
Are we swirling yet or just doing the big?
No, we can swirl now. Oh man. So after you swirl, you get a lot more stuff. Don't you think?
Yeah, mine changed a lot.
Big time.
Yeah.
It's much
Yeah,
lighter
change-
now.
Big time. So I'll tell you what. So this particular one, I happen to know, I think it's a 2017. When we come back, so we'll talk about it a little bit. In 2 or 3 minutes when we come back, it will have changed even more. This stuff opens up like crazy. So like, and
This
that's
is,
what people say.
This is
when-
magic. It's changing in front of my eyes,
Hey man, listen, it'll change more.
my nose.
This is the coolest thing. So it'll change even more. And when when people say this wine needs to open up, that's what that is. It's oxygen interacting with the wine. And so that's why you swirl, is to increase the surface area and gas exchange. And then that's why you decant. It's again, like get oxygen interacting with the wine. But yeah, this even
I
with the
like
swirl,
this way better than the Pinot.
why? In what way? Because I mean, it's your preference, but like what, I guess.
That way.
See, I like the earthiness more of a Pinot. I just prefer a Pinot over a.
You know what?
Oh, wow, that is fantastic, by the way.
That's a good cab, I think.
That's a really nice cab.
Because my mind is
Wow.
the smell of like
Yeah.
you buy diapers in a bag. That's what it smells like to me.
Are you
Um,
dating?
Adult diapers
So-
for his dad.
Wait, after the swirl, anything other than cherry smoke?
I
And
smell
no.
it. I smell
so
the smell
proud.
of unused adult diapers. Like when you buy a pack of diapers and they're in a plastic bag. That's what it smells like to me.
It
It's like
smells.
the person
It
that-
smells more like a Merlot than a Cabernet, though.
Why?
I don't know.
Don't give me any fucking Merlot. Have you seen the movie Sideways?
I have, and Merlot, listen, Merlot is the base varietal for some of the best wines in the world. Chateau Petrus, which is the most expensive Bordeaux you can buy, is Merlot based. Thank
So
you.
funny.
So we were out at Gargiula's, and I like their Merlot better than their Cab, although they're known for the Cabs more than Merlots. But I love their Merlot. I just think it's the best Merlot I've ever had.
And the thing about, so Merlot, I'm so glad we're talking about this because, as an aside,
But this is a Cab.
wine, if you look at the back of the label of this bottle, this is actually about 85%, I believe, Cab. Can you see? 13% Merlot.
Oh.
No, there you go.
Well, and I might glass glasses
You're above
on,
average.
so I'll take.
And the rest is, I think, Petit Verdot, Cap Franc, and I don't think there's any Malbec, but this is a Bordeaux blend, which is, so left bank Bordeaux's are Cabernet, majority Cabernet, right bank Bordeaux's are majority Merlot. So in California, you need at least 85% Cabernet Sauvignon in order to call that bottle Cabernet Sauvignon. It doesn't have to be 100%. So this particular bottle is 85% Cab, 13% Merlot, and like, what, 2% other stuff.
Yeah.
But this is actually fantastic.
It also sticks more when you swirl it.
Inside the glass.
Yeah. you
Inside of the
see
glass?
more- Yeah.
So one
That's
thing
a
about,
function of the cleanliness of the glass.
yeah, so there's two things. Now, three really big factors when you talk about, people talk about legs on the glass, things like that. Three real big things. One is, yes, the condition of the glass itself. Is it clean? What was used to clean it? Was there wine in it before? Second big part.
Dishwasher versus hand wash.
Second big thing is sugar content. So if you had, for instance, like a really, really, really cheap bottle of wine that had a lot of sugar dosed into it, like a Pinot Grigio from Barefoot or something like that, it would have legs all day long because there's so much sugar in it coating
Okay.
sides. The other thing is alcohol content, and alcohol content and sugar content are very highly related. So
Because alcohol's a sugar.
it is, and alcohol will blow off in a very thin layer. Sugar will stay. So in maybe the past 30, 40 years, it's not a really good indicator of much except for maybe sugar content. But
Sugar.
if you're all using like the different glasses for each wine, like this one is pulling away very, very fast from my glass, which is a fresh glass, but I polished it, so there's not a whole lot of residual stuff on it. But as far as looking at a glass and lights and things like that, I think in modern times it's probably more of an indicator of sugar content more than anything else.
Interesting.
But
Yeah. That's a
So
nice wine.
I find it really interesting.
What's
how it
the
smells changes.
major smell or taste that were in this?
well,
I can't come up with it.
let me ask you this. So again, let's go with fruit and non-fruit.
It's a non-fruit to me.
Can you detect any fruit at all?
I know they were talking about cherries in there.
Raisins, cherries.
Oh, raisins.
Yes, I get sour, I get cherry, I do get kind of the cooked fruit, maybe raisins. Anything else?
That's a good call. I mean, when I stick my nose in there, it smells like
Look at
raisins.
that.
Well, it should smell like raisins, right? It's grapes.
Well, but then, some wines have, that fresh fruit component, and other wines have a cooked fruit, if you will, or dried fruit even.
You
So
said
this
that,
one,
it's like a box of sun-kissed raisins.
outside of grapes and cherries, I do get something of one other thing.
Apricot. No.
I get a
No,
berry.
It's yeah.
What's that?
I think it's a berry.
Like a blackberry?
I can't.
Yes, blackberry. Hold on. Holy shit.
Yes,
Hold on.
Michael.
I'll show you. To tell you, I'm not full of shit here. Hold on a second.
Michael, you need to
Boom,
go
right there, blackberry.
to school. That's all we
Look at
need.
that.
Could you imagine?
I can't read it. What's it say?
It said blackberry, but
Oh, that's-
I get.
Blackberry and steel refrigerator.
Okay, so non-fruit flavors. Anything? Or smells?
It's that same leather smell.
Yes, I get leather. What else?
It's not as spicy, but I definitely
I agree.
it has a spice, and probably the pepper again.
Yep, I get black
It
pepper.
is peppery to me.
Yeah.
Okay, that is a closer. I haven't been able to come up with a word with what I'm smelling and
Yeah.
tasting, but that's
That's pepper.
yeah.
It smells like black pepper. It does.
Yeah.
Yeah. What else? Maybe something that you might find in your closet.
Mothballs.
Similar, Because I smell that
Cedar?
big time.
Cedar?
Cedar?
Where you going? Grabbing us dinner? Oh, okay.
Is that real? Do y'all really smell cedar? Because this is what I wrote down. You see that?
I,
What'd you
now
write
that
down?
you say it, I can agree.
Blackbird is good.
Hey, Lisa, tell Paige how cold it's gonna get tonight.
She doesn't care.
Lisa? Lisa? Tell Paige it's gonna get down to 36 tonight.
I would never think of cedar.
I wouldn't either, but I find
That's the thing. Like I said cedar, and there's cedar in there for sure.
Yeah. I mean, now
But
that
if I
you
said
say-
something like pine,
She really
Yeah.
does wear those short shorts.
you're not going to get pine out of this, right?
Mhm.
No,
I know.
but cedar.
This is our middle daughter, Maddie. Come say
Hey,
hi.
hi. But cedar you get, even though I said it.
Can you help us
It's not
drink a
just.
little
I'm hoping it's not just sort of
Psychosomatic.
out of the blue. Yeah, not at least not 100% psychosomatic. You know.
Well, it's fun. It is funny though how when you said raisins, I could smell the raisins, and when Henry said cedar, I could smell the cedar. Like I do.
It's all
like,
psych.
No, there
I
was
can't come up with a
definitely
word.
something else in
Well,
there.
no, a lot of it is
Well, if
equipping
you're trained
yourself
with all
with
these
words
different,
to
there's so many
describe
different
these things.
flavors or smells that you guys have in like an encyclopedia, and then you know that there are choices, and then you can go in and you kind of start smelling it and you kind of figure it out, I guess.
I don't know. I mean, it's
The cedar makes sense. From what
It
you were
does.
saying, it makes sense.
I just find it
I
fascinating
don't smell cedar.
how different the smell was when we just poured it in the glass and didn't swirl it around versus what the smell is now. I mean,
Yeah,
oh my
it's
God.
It changed. It's like
totally
magic.
different.
Huge difference. Opened up big time. And like I said, so now it's been 7 minutes. In a couple more minutes, it's gonna smell different even.
Yeah.
And that's just
Actually, now it smells more cooked. Smell it now. So give it a good swirl. Smell it right now.
Need like, I'm gonna have some of yours.
A lot of that fresh stuff is gone. right?
Yeah, it is.
You're good. Like you're kind of one.
Is that what we just had?
This is the same thing you just had.
It's got less to it. It tastes, it's not as sharp.
It's pretty good to me.
And smoothed out. Right? Yeah, it's smoothed out. Yeah.
It's really
It's
smooth.
it's a lot smoother.
Yeah.
It is,
And it's a 2017.
yeah.
2017, yeah, a lot smoother. And like, I'm telling you, this is what decanting, how it makes a difference and things like that. And
It's totally different.
isn't
Yeah.
that crazy?
Are there wines you would recommend not to decant?
Yes. So if you want to keep those fresh aromas, which the Pinot Noir, I would not recommend decanting, the one that we tasted tonight. Even this Cabernet, I would not recommend decanting because,
It changes so much over time.
and it's cool to detect that in your glass,
Yeah.
It's not going to benefit a whole lot from being outside of the bottle for an hour.
Is that because it's so young?
Yes, that's one of the reasons. So what enables wine to be aged for a long time is a very, very high level of tannins, among other things. And like, if you don't, so tannin is a natural preservative. It's also what makes, you ever have a like iced tea where the tea was just steeped too long and like that kind of that's that's tannin. And again, tannins are a preservative so that when you taste them for like too early, you're getting a lot of tannins. So what happens in the bottle after a very long period of time, tannins will actually bind with the pigment in a red wine and fall away in solution. So, when you see a nice bottle of older red wine decanted, they will pour it and be very careful about not having the sediment go into your decanter.
Remember that, Charles?
I do.
That-
Now,
Charles drank my sediment last week or the week before.
I mean, it's harmless. But what happens is the tannins
Tell him
The
it's good for
tannins
his
bind with the pigment, fall out of solution, so the wine becomes lighter in color and becomes much more smooth and less bitter.
So a 10-year-old Chateau de Pop, you would decant.
A Shadow at the Pop? No, I don't, because those wines are acidic, but they're not tannic, I would
Okay.
say. You know, the Shadow at the Pop is mostly Grenache, you know, easy drinking wine, probably not really suitable for aging for very long periods of time. You're talking about like Italian, Spanish, maybe some American cabs that are, and some Bordeaux's that are suitable for aging for very long periods of time because they have a lot of, they're very, very tannic, so they can withstand, you know, a long aging period. But
So a Bordeaux, you would decant, an older Bordeaux.
an older Bordeaux for sure, at least a left bank Bordeaux, which is cab heavy. Even Merlot, it's tough. I would decant an older wine.
Because you know, I get offered these wines to buy, and they either say left bank or right bank Bordeaux, and I'm like,
Heck's the difference.
that's the difference. Now there is a difference.
Left bank, mostly cab. Right bank, mostly Merlot.
That's why I like the right
That's
bank.
it.
All right, okay, that makes sense.
Interesting.
Yeah. So, and California blend, like Bordeaux blends, merit, like if you see a red wine bottle that says Meritage on it, that's a Bordeaux blend. So California winemakers in the 70s actually did not want to use the term Bordeaux blend because French winemakers were like calling them, you know, like hacks and assholes and you suck. So like, we're not going to use the French term. We're not going to use Bordeaux blend. We're going to come up with a name for our own Bordeaux blend, which is Cab, Merlot, Cab Franc, Petit Verdot. And what they came up with in the 70s, late 70s, was Meritage, which is the combination of two words, merit and heritage. So when you see a Meritage, that is California winemakers making a Bordeaux blend. So
Is that similar to a claret?
Claret is the British, the UK term for a similar thing. I don't think Claret has. They might use different. That's a really good question to that. What varietals, Gesundheit, that Clarets use? But it might
It's
be
one of our four that has the COVID-19.
Right.
That's amongst us tonight.
Right, but the
No,
other
he
three
does
will
that.
have it soon.
Yeah, he's spreading it.
Yeah.
the Rona.
Mike's whole
Well
family
done.
will have it soon. But you're safe.
Yeah, you're safe.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So Henry, to follow up on what Mike was saying, what wines in general would you for sure decant then? Like like a bunch of these you said, well, probably not. No.
Like an older Cabernet, you would, right?
Yes, I would say older. If I'm gonna paint with a very broad brush,
Yeah.
older Spanish wines, older Italian wines, and older left bank Bordeaux's.
That's interesting. Yeah.
So a Brunello would be one you would decant?
Oh yeah. Oh yeah. Yeah, that will like just pucker your entire face. However, wow, you brought up Brunello. Brunello is very interesting. I don't know if you know this. Brunello has two aging requirements. One is 18 months in a barrel. So once they make the wine, it's got to go in a barrel, sit in there for 18 months before they put it in a bottle. Okay? So once they put it in a glass bottle, cork it, label it, everything. It's got to sit in a bottle for 5 years.
That's why I keep
Sell
getting
it.
sent these Brunellos offers that are like 5, 6 years, 7 years old. And it's like they stagger it. It's like I look up the Brunello and it was the only thing that's available was 7 years ago. There was like a whole lot of it. And
If you get a 5-year-old Brunello, that's the first year you can get it. And yeah, these wines can sit for.
And I'm like, why am I only seeing this 1 year for this Brunello? Now I know. Okay. All right.
5 year.
I'm getting into Brunellos lately.
They're good.
And I love. Well, so Michael, do you like Rosso de Montalcinos, which have a 2-year bottling requirement?
What are they?
Rosso de Montalcino. So it's the same wine as Brunello de Montalcino, but
Oh, I think
they've
I
only
have-
been in the bottle for 2 years rather than 5.
I think I have some of that downstairs.
One of my favorite Italian wines.
And so the the bigger cabs in California, like the Harlan or the I'm trying to think of some of the wines we got in California that we liked that are really old downstairs. Okay, all right, so anything with a lot of sediment now, you've got sediment, you decant it, right?
Yeah, I mean, so sediment is not necessarily the tannins of the pigment. It could also be like tartaric acid, which is, you can never tell when that's really going to happen. But, I would go with, I have some knowledge, not that much, but like, if you want to give me some, a list of the bottles that you have, I will do some research and give you kind of a spreadsheet of dates to drink by. I'd love to do that.
That's cool.
Yeah, love to do that.
All right, cool.
Yeah. So what y'all think? Fun? No?
This was so much fun.
Yeah?
So much fun. Yeah. I mean, this
Awesome.
was such a great time.
Yeah.
Cool. Y'all
Now,
gonna have dinner?
given this audience has been locked up for 8 weeks, but this is the most fun I've had in at least a year. This is fun.
So, are you at
What?
the club now?
What's that?
You're in the Maryland Club now.
I am. Yeah, this is not a virtual background. This is actually a bar.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The Maryland Club is closed, right?
It is closed.
Yeah.
I noticed since we
100%
closed
closed.
down the Maryland Club, all those bottles have a lot less alcohol in them now since we closed.
Don't tell anybody that, Michael. Actually, only on the bottom level, but yeah.
They're all missing.
Yeah.
No, but-
Empty.
So the only thing that we've been doing is the food distribution, partnering with the Franciscan Center of Baltimore, which is
Oh.
That's
so
awesome.
yeah,
I have one question for you.
yeah, absolutely.
Are you wearing shorts right now?
I'm so glad you asked that. I almost wore shorts today. I'm wearing jeans. Can you see
I
that?
hope you're wearing these jeans.
Yes.
No, dress pants.
So I actually wore jeans and I actually wore nice shoes too. Like,
Oh my.
You do not need to wear a tie with this crowd.
You could have worn pajama bottoms.
I know, but that's how we do it at the Maryland Club, man.
That's right.
I think
That's beautiful.
you guys made this on Wednesday nights, but the Wednesday nights are tough for
I
a lot
know.
of the,
I
a lot
know.
of our group is all working right now.
We're trying to think of a good day to do it, and like we had so much other stuff happening on the other nights. But no, we'll have I'll make sure that it's recorded properly for subsequent.
Well, I'm going to share with them the story that I heard on the golf course today.
I heard this.
So the reason why the recording, which worked, was not released is because Laurel and Charles Peltier,
Tom.
I'm sorry, Tom and Laurel Peltier screwed up the mic of the muting, and you had Tom and Laurel arguing.
I remember that. Yeah.
And Laurel telling Tom to shut up or shut the fuck up. And so they carried on for 5 minutes. It didn't stop till Kyle took a picture of it and sent it to them saying, "You're on, we're listening to you."
And Tom is like, "What's this? It's you and Laurel arguing for the last 5 minutes."
That
They
is
must have been
really
mortified.
funny.
That was not the case, I assure you. I muted them. So.
Well, that's going to be our story because that's a good story.
Really good. And
That's
it might
not
be
your
fun.
official story.
It
but
might
that's
be
our
fun to
story.
have more people on next week. And I'm going to try to do it on the TV next week so that I can see more people.
So
doing it.
next week, what we did on Wednesday was a webinar, which is the downside is you can't see everybody. The upside is, there's not a million people trying to talk at the same time. But for next Wednesday, we're going to try this meeting format where everybody, can. I'll probably mute. To be honest, I'm going to mute everybody.
Yeah, everybody should
Start.
be muted.
You're
Yeah.
gonna need to.
And then if somebody wants to say something, we can.
Yeah.
I think it's important that everybody sees each other and see, who's here and stuff. So.
Well, Henry, I don't know. When you have a large, this was very interactive, which was awesome.
I
But
think
when you have
This was perfect.
when you have a larger group, you wouldn't be able to drill us on what are you really smelling? And I might say something, but you.
No, and then 10
Figure out
people
what
are
that
trying to
is.
say something. Yeah.
There's
And-
not a back and forth.
And
Yeah.
also keep in mind that while you were doing this, all these groups were together texting each other in a group
Right.
text chat. And they were all chatting out things that they thought were funny and cool too.
Right, it might
Right.
be something so that if you set it up, you can have like a rolling screen along the side for people to start like making comments
Oh, you can
along.
make-
No, yeah, there's a chat screen.
If you
So-
do Zoom, yeah. You
Oh, it
can
does
have
that?
Zoom.
Yeah, on the bottom, the chat is awesome. So on Wednesday, like people were just putting comments and stuff. It was great. Yeah.
I realize that.
Yeah.
Okay, I've never done this.
So I'm gonna probably do this on the TV next week if I can.
You can sit outside.
So it's bigger.
TV.
Yeah,
Oh.
these are really great wines, and I am very surprised by that Kim Crawford. That really surprised
This 2019 is awesome. I
Yeah.
will drink this all freaking day on a hot day.
me.
I'm serious.
Yeah,
But aren't these all four? I think were really, really good representatives of their style. And next week's going to be really great. It's again same winemaker, a Chardonnay and a Pinot Noir, one from Oregon, one from France, and the comparison is really cool. And then week 3 is Italian reds, which are like that's a whole field of study in itself. But
Yeah.
no, yeah.
yeah. Well, thank you, Henry.
Thank
No, thank you. Everybody have a good time. Like,
This was so much
Yeah, it was
fun.
great to
Yeah.
see you.
This is
awesome.
such a
No,
treat.
good to see. Oh my gosh, I'm so glad. I didn't know you were gonna join us in this. That's awesome.
And happy birthday to your son. I can't believe
Thank
it's
you.
so-
I
oh
know.
my
You
God.
follow him on Instagram, right?
No, what's his?
What?
I
Are you
will
serious?
now. What's his
Handle.
name? handle?
The 2-year-old?
Yeah.
Yeah. Johnny G. Hong.
Johnny G. Hong.
Jonnyghong. Johnny. I'll
Okay.
email you.
All right.
I'll find your emails. You don't follow him on Instagram? What? Get out of here.
No, I just got on Instagram like kind of recently, so
It's a daily
but
dose of you.
I'll follow him.
Yeah.
That's funny. So
Johnny G. Hong.
Correct.
Wow.
JONNYGHONG.
yeah. All
He's
right.
ridiculous.
Good.
Yeah.
Are you the only one there right now?
No, I've got Clarence at the door, and I think Shep is still downstairs. But yeah.
Okay.
Wow.
All right. Well, thank
Yeah.
you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Great seeing you all. See you
Thanks
next
for
week.
spending your evening. I appreciate it.
Yeah.
It was my pleasure. This
See
is
you
awesome.
Wednesday.
Thank you.
We'll see you Wednesday.
Take care.
Sounds good. Bye-bye.
Thank you.
Bye, Henry.
Thank you.
Bye.